Ayame Hojo, a legendary swordsman, found his 80-year journey ending with a failing body. His prime had long since faded, his physical form reaching its absolute limit. Yet, even as death approached, his spirit remained unyielding. His sword, an extension of his soul, was still firmly on the path. He had dedicated his life to mastering the endless road of the blade, and he yearned for the impossible to continue. In his past life, he was a formidable warrior, a master whose prowess often made him stand out. He once protected a young girl from a group of mages who scoffed at a mere swordsman, reminding him that the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. He had effortlessly deflected their magical attacks with his blade, leaving them stunned. Even their combined avalanche spells shattered against his sword, proving his skill surpassed their expectations. This was Magiheim, a world where magic reigned supreme and swordsmanship had fallen into obscurity, its practitioners treated as inferior. Despite the prevailing belief that magic was the strongest force, even in close combat he had always pushed the boundaries. His secret was a terrifying truth the mages never grasped. The sword he had devoted his entire life to mastering surpassed even magic itself. After a final, blinding display of his power, darkness consumed him. He drifted, unsure if this was a dream or the fleeting world before death. He found himself in a luminous space, a boundary between life and death, where he encountered a radiant woman. She introduced herself as a god or goddess and revealed that he had transcended the limits of humanity. As a reward, his soul was offered ascension to the celestial realm, a utopia free of conflict and, consequently, without weapons. Our boy, however, had only one question: would there be a sword in this paradise? Upon learning there would be none, he immediately refused the offer. He had lived by the sword, and he would die by the sword, a truth that would not change even after death. The goddess, seemingly amused by his unwavering resolve, then proposed reincarnation. He conceptually agreed, and she promised to transfer his existence to another world, even allowing him to take one cursed sword from his previous life. He questioned the convenience, but she explained that gods were always eager to witness human potential. As she sent him forth, the goddess imparted a final, crucial detail. The world he was destined for was Magiheim, the very magic supremacy world where swordsmanship was scorned. For someone who chose the sword, she warned, it would be an unforgiving and cold place. She watched, anticipating how far he would go. The swordsman awoke, his body miraculously young and vibrant, recognizing his familiar katana by his side and the distinct clothes of this new world. He spoke to his blade, eager to fight together again, yet he pondered the goddess's words. If swordsmanship was considered useless, what exactly was Magiheim? His immediate concerns were basic survival, food, clothing, and shelter. But deeper down, a familiar yearning stirred. He wished to face a rival who could shake his soul, just like his old enemy. A sudden scream pierced the air, pulling him towards the sound. He felt incredibly light. He arrived to find a young girl, strikingly similar to his past companion, surrounded by vicious wolves, overwhelmed and despairing. Before she could succumb, he moved, swiftly dispatching one of the unusual beasts with his blade. He calmly identified himself as just a passerby when she asked who he was. Seeing her continued peril, he drew his demon blade, Heaven Eater, and declared his intent to intervene. In a blur of motion, he eliminated the remaining wolves. He checked on the girl, who thanked him profusely, amazed by his swordsmanship. She confessed she had never seen such skill. He humbly stated he was still in training, still walking his path. The girl then revealed that swordsmen were rarely seen nowadays, as magic was the dominant discipline in the kingdom of Arcadia. His mind reeled as her words echoed the goddess's warning. Magiheim, a world where magic reigned supreme, would be far too cold for one who chose the sword. The true challenge had only just begun. The Arcadia Kingdom was a land where magic reigned supreme, reaching its absolute peak. Swordsmen, once revered, had become a rarity, almost obsolete in this new era. Our protagonist, Ayame, found himself intrigued by this unknown power, a force so potent it had overshadowed the blade. He wondered if it was akin to the sorcery or barrier arts he knew, a thrilling prospect of discovery. Luna, whom he had recently saved, offered to show him around the royal capital as a gesture of gratitude. He accepted, introducing himself as Ayame. They walked through the great forest of Arcadia, a place Luna admitted was dangerous, even for mages. She had been searching for a crucial material there, but her magic, still unrefined, proved insufficient against the formidable monsters. When asked about his origins, Ayame simply stated he was from the east. Luna, perceptive, noted that he didn't seem to be there merely for sightseeing. He explained he was on a warrior's pilgrimage to master the sword, a slight simplification of his true purpose. Luna was amazed by his dedication. As they neared the capital, Luna mentioned an inspection at the gates. Ayame realized he lacked identification, but then a mysterious card, seemingly from a goddess, appeared in his possession. He presented the card to the gatekeeper, who recognized it as originating from the Far East, a rare and unusual place. The gatekeeper prepared to open the massive gates, which typically required magic due to their immense weight. Ayame, however, simply pushed them open with one hand, effortlessly. He attributed his feat to enough training, leaving Luna and the gatekeeper utterly astonished. The gatekeeper warned him the swordsmen were treated harshly in this magic-dominated land. As they entered the city, Ayame observed that he was the only one openly carrying a sword. People openly mocked him, calling him an idiot for carrying such a thing. This, he realized, was the reality of the Magia Heim. They arrived at Luna's modest house, her parents out working for the day. She brewed him some local black tea, which he found genuinely delicious, noting its distinct herbal aroma. He praised her for preparing it, valuing the effort more than the drink itself. Ayame inquired about Magia Heim, learning it was a society where magic dictated everything, a world of magical supremacy. Luna explained that swordsmen were looked down upon, even by common townsfolk. Undeterred, Ayame declared that no matter the adversity, he would overcome it. That, he asserted, was the way of his sword. Planning to stay in the city, Ayame needed a way to earn a living, ideally one that involved his sword. Luna suggested registering as an adventurer, a profession where one completed requests for rewards. They headed to the Adventurers Guild, where Ayame again noticed the conspicuous absence of other swordsmen. At the guild, Ayame sought to register as an adventurer. The receptionist asked if he was a mage. Ayame admitted he knew nothing of magic, so he was registered as a swordsman. He was instructed to place his hand on a crystal to measure his mana, which would determine his adventurer rank. When Ayame touched the crystal, there was no reaction. The receptionist explained that 0 mana meant he could barely use magic, severely limiting his options and making it incredibly difficult to survive as an adventurer. Other adventurers openly ridiculed him, calling him a barbarian and an endangered species for being a swordsman with no mana. Ayame absorbed their contempt, recognizing it as the true face of the world of magical supremacy. He calmly asked if magic was truly such a superior art, claiming he had never witnessed it. A provoked adventurer hurled a fireball at him. Ayame, impressed by the fire conjured from nothing, casually swatted the magical attack away with a focused burst of his aura. He thanked the surprised adventurer for the informative demonstration. The receptionist, bewildered, asked if he could nullify magic with his aura. Ayame received his adventurer card, learning about quests on the board and how contributions would raise his rank. Luna congratulated him on his registration, noting the guild's need for more adventurers due to recent disturbing rumors. Suddenly, a stir spread through the guild. Lord Carter, heir to a noble family and an A-rank adventurer, entered with his party. His overwhelming presence, coupled with his reputation for securing a spot in the Royal Mage Corps, drew awe from the other adventurers. Lord Carter then approached Luna directly, acknowledging her. He asked if she had given any thought to that matter they discussed, leaving Luna visibly distressed and the matter unresolved. A young swordsman found himself confronted by Lord Eric and the Lady Luna. Eric, heir to the powerful Carter house, took an immediate disliking to Ayame, mocking him for being a mere swordsman without mana, aspiring to be an adventurer. Ayame remained calm, even offering an apology for his unfamiliarity with the country's customs, but Eric saw it as defiance. He vowed to teach Ayame what happened when one crossed the Count's house. Luna, visibly distressed, tried to intervene, explaining Ayame was new, but Eric dismissed her. Ayame, however, refused Eric's condescending offer of forgiveness, questioning if oppressing others was truly a magician's nature. Enraged, Eric unleashed a barrage of fire bullets, expecting a swift victory against the manaless swordsman. But to his astonishment, he effortlessly deflected each magical projectile with his blade. Eric, stunned, could only watch as his sword moved with impossible speed and precision. Eric escalated, conjuring a powerful thunder spear, a formidable magical attack. Yet, with a single decisive stroke, he cut through the lightning itself. Eric's arrogance shattered. He realized his sword possessed the rare ability to nullify mana, a powerful magic item. Though defeated, his pride wouldn't allow him to admit it. He merely warned Ayame that their encounter wasn't over, promising to educate him personally next time before leaving with a reluctant Luna. After Eric's departure, Luna approached Ayame, her face etched with worry. She asked if he was connected to the reason she had been found in the forest, and if so, she wanted to help him. He, seeing her sincerity, agreed to hear her story. Luna explained that his simple acts of kindness, making her tea, teaching her about this new world, meant everything to her. As someone reincarnated into this world and a swordsman in a society that looked down on them, his unquestioning help was a beacon. She then recounted her tragic tale. From a small village, Luna possessed a talent for magic. Her father, a merchant, had gone to the capital to sell their village's specialties and secured a deal with the count's house. However, the contract was unjustly altered without his consent, piling on massive land fees and debt that swallowed all their profits. When her father protested, he was met with the harsh reality that defying nobility was forbidden. He worked relentlessly to pay off the impossible debt until he ultimately collapsed. It was then that Lord Eric made his offer. If Luna became a maid at the Carter estate, he would reduce the debt. He quickly understood Eric's true intentions were not about money, but about possessing Luna, likely having orchestrated the entire situation. Luna, desperate to save her family, tried to become an adventurer to earn money, but without a party, she was alone and vulnerable. In her despair, she ventured into the dangerous Grand Forest alone, where Ayame found her. Overwhelmed by the injustice, Luna broke down, questioning if nobles truly were above everything. His eyes now alight with resolve, he firmly declared that power was meant to protect, not oppress. He spoke of his love for fighting and his sword, explaining that he walked the path of Bushido, a path of righteousness. It was about upholding honesty and sincerity, and using his blade to cut down cowardice, injustice, and deceit. He vowed to follow his righteousness and help Luna. He then proposed they form a party together. Luna, surprised but hopeful, confirmed her ability as a backline supporter, asking if he would take the front. He readily agreed. With renewed courage, Luna declared she no longer feared Lord Eric. He, looking at her with a gentle smile, told her that today would be the last day she was ever looked down upon. Luna, touched by his words, felt a surge of confidence. He knew this would inevitably lead to a confrontation with Eric, but he was ready. He suggested they challenge a dungeon, just the two of them, aiming for a jackpot that could solve her family's plight. Luna, excited by the prospect, agreed. Together, they set off, ready to face the challenges ahead as they stepped into the unknown depths of a dungeon. Our protagonist, Ayame, and Luna stood before the quest board. Luna, ever the pragmatist, pointed out a D-rank quest for gathering materials in a dungeon, emphasizing its low-risk nature. Ayame, however, seemed to yearn for something more challenging. Luna explained the adventurer rank system, noting that her D rank and his F rank meant they were limited to quests appropriate for their levels. Despite his F rank, he was a quick study, and Luna went off to handle the necessary paperwork. Luna with papers, looking back at Ayame. Ayame walks away in the background. While Luna was occupied, a noble named Eric approached Ayame with his entourage, Eric looking smugly at the viewer with Ayame's back. Eric, full of disdain, mocked his origins as a country bumpkin from the Far East and belittled his sword, calling it a katana. He proudly declared that nobles were absolute in this country, excelling at magic and using it to protect commoners, implying swordsmen were inferior. A group of people with obscured faces stand together. Eric stands opposite Ayame, looking at him with a smirk. Eric then turned his attention to Luna, revealing he knew about her unfair contract. He made it clear he intended to help her, hinting at sinister desires to claim her for himself. Ayame's simple declaration of wanting to help Luna pay off her debt was dismissed as a pipe dream by Eric, who sneered at the idea of a mere swordsman achieving such a feat. Ayame looks at the viewer with a determined expression. Ayame remained unfazed, calmly stating that they wouldn't know if it was a pipe dream until they tried. Eric, however, issued a chilling warning about the high mortality rate in dungeons, considering it his final word on the matter. Soon after, Luna returned with the completed paperwork, commenting on Eric's transparent nature. They then made their way to the Arcadia dungeon. Luna described it as one of the most difficult in the world, especially past the 20th floor, which was restricted to A-rank adventurers. Their current mission was to gather bronze ore from the 10th floor. Ayame and Luna walk down stone stairs into a darker area. Luna holds a pickaxe and smiles. Ayame also holds one. Luna smiles brightly at the viewer. Ayame looks calm. As they descended, Luna began to teach him about magic. She explained the 5 basic elements: fire, water, ice, lightning, and wind, and also non-elemental magic like body enhancement, defense, and mental interference. Luna detailed how magic casting had evolved over time, from complex chants and intricate circles to simple phrases, and now to chantless casting, making it incredibly fast and mana efficient. She mentioned that silent mages, who could use magic in complete silence, were a rare handful of high-level practitioners. Luna concluded by explaining that modern magic had significantly disadvantaged swordsmen in close quarters due to their opponent's magic defense. Luna looked surprised, while Ayame looked thoughtful. Ayame understood this magic supremacy world, but firmly declared his intent to surpass it all with his sword, leaving Luna amazed by his resolve. Ayame looks at Luna, who is pointing forward and smiling. Upon reaching the 10th floor, Ayame immediately sensed they were being followed. Goblins emerged, and Luna cautioned him, explaining that while individually not high risk, they were cunning and well-organized, often setting traps. He engaged the goblins, holding back his full power known as Heaven Eater, though he still felt unseen eyes watching them. Ayame holds his wrapped sword, looking calm. Ayame found the goblins surprisingly resilient. Luna clarified that their natural magic defense made them tougher than they appeared, a common trait that could only be countered with magic. She lamented that this was precisely why the way of the sword had fallen from prominence. Luna looks wide-eyed and slightly scared, with a drop of sweat. Taking the lead, Luna activated her magic weakening spell, significantly slowing the goblin's movements. She then cast body enhancements on herself to bolster her own physical strength. Ayame watched her work, impressed by her magical prowess. With the goblins weakened, he swiftly dispatched them, acknowledging that Luna's magic had made the task considerably easier. He noted that without her support, breaking through their magic defense with just an average swordsman's strength would have been a significant nuisance. Ayame looks down at a dead goblin on the floor. Luna, observing his composure, commented on his maturity. He subtly revealed a hint of his past, mentioning he had been over 80 years old in his previous life. As they continued, an unusual silence settled over the dungeon. Luna used her search magic and her eyes widened in alarm. Luna looks intently, with blue energy lines emanating from her hands and eyes. Luna looks shocked and wide-eyed. She detected a massive monster heading directly for them. To her horror, it was a griffin, a high-rank monster that should only appear on the 20th floor and below. Luna realized it was far out of their league. Ayame, however, his eyes gleaming with anticipation, saw the terrifying creature approaching and simply declared it, just the challenge I needed. Ayame found himself face to face with a high-ranking monster, a formidable griffin that typically only appeared on the 20th floor and beyond. He called it a giant overgrown chicken, a jest that hid his respect for such a worthy opponent. His companion, Luna, a young woman with pink hair, instantly sensed the danger, her concern etched on her face. He urged her to stay back, knowing the peril that lay before them. Luna, however, was determined to help, extending her hand to offer a physical enhancement spell. The griffin, with its sharp talons and powerful wings, launched a series of wind-like slashes. Ayame noticed the beast was already wounded, a detail that made him wonder if someone had intentionally lured it here. He understood then that this was no ordinary foe, it was in a completely different league from the goblins he usually faced. Taking a deep breath, he prepared himself for the intense battle ahead. Ayame appreciated the gesture, but he knew her current level of magic would be ineffective against a beast of this caliber. He needed to rely solely on his own raw strength. Ayame engaged the beast, his first strike aimed at severing its powerful form, but the griffin's magical defense proved incredibly solid. The fight was tough, and he realized he couldn't hold back any longer. With a determined glint in his eyes, he channeled his power, preparing his ultimate technique. His hand gripped his sword, which began to glow with an intense yellow light. He unleashed his full might, crying out, "Heaven Eater," as he charged forward. With a blinding flash, Ayame brought down his glowing blade, a force that tore through the very air. The powerful blow connected with the majestic griffin, a splendid attack that made Luna gasp in surprise. Yet, despite the force, Ayame realized the griffin had seen right through his initial move. He parried another incoming strike, getting in close and managed to land a hit, drawing blood from the creature. However, his disappointment was clear. The wound was shallow, not enough to bring down such a formidable foe. The griffin roared in pain and anger, its fury reignited. Ayame felt a pang of frustration, lamenting that his training was still lacking if he couldn't take its head off in one strike. Luna, however, was still amazed, calling his feat magnificent. She couldn't believe he had actually defeated the high-ranking griffin all by himself, a feat she thought even an A-rank adventurer couldn't accomplish. Ayame simply stated he had told her he would win, but Luna pointed out the sharp, non-magical cuts on the beast, wondering if another sword user had been involved. Ayame merely confirmed he hadn't been at full strength. Suddenly, another group appeared. One of them, a man with light blue hair named Eric, looked at the defeated griffin, observing the earlier wounds and musing about the powerhouse who could have inflicted them. Eric then praised Ayame's strength, admitting he was far more powerful than he had imagined. Luna, however, was wary of Eric, questioning his presence. Eric, with a nonchalant smile, dismissed her concerns, suggesting a griffin could simply wander out sometimes. Luna suspected he was responsible for setting the beast on them. Eric then made a gentlemanly proposal, a duel between him and Ayame. The stakes were high. If Eric won, he would claim Luna, and Ayame would never approach her again. Luna vehemently protested, but Eric taunted her, implying she relied on Ayame's strength to deal with her father's unjust contract. Ayame, accepting the challenge, named his condition: Eric must nullify that very contract. Eric, amused, agreed. To seal the pact, Eric produced a magic crest, explaining that this magical contract was absolute and would be enforced. Ayame, with unwavering confidence, accepted the terms. Eric began the duel with a warm-up, warning Ayame to be prepared to lose an arm or two, though he assured him that healing magic would prevent death. With a wide, triumphant smile, Eric unleashed a barrage of glowing yellow, lightning spears. Ayame swiftly dodged the numerous projectiles, showcasing his remarkable agility. Eric continued his assault, marveling at Ayame's ability to keep up. Just as Ayame seemed to be holding his own, Eric suddenly intensified his attack, unleashing a devastating flame pillar. The massive magical explosion engulfed Ayame, leaving his fate uncertain. This was only the beginning. The real storm hasn't hit yet. The young man had always felt like an outsider, born with a talent for magic despite his non-mage parents. He used to believe his abilities were special, but coming to the royal capital quickly shattered that illusion. He realized he was nothing more than a frog in a well, completely outclassed by the kingdom's mages, especially those from noble families. He watched Luna, a powerful mage, and recognized the vast gulf between them. Meanwhile, Luna, also known as Ayame, found herself in a desperate situation. Her father, a cold and manipulative man, saw her as nothing more than a disposable tool for his desires. He was forcing her into a marriage with Lord Eric, a relentless suitor. Ayame felt the heavy burden placed upon her, knowing her father viewed her as merely an object to be used. The young man remembered the first time he truly saw Ayame. She had looked radiant to him, and he had admired her unwavering strength and resolve. He respected her ability to stay true to herself despite the pressures she faced. Now, facing an impossible future, Ayame turned to him, her eyes pleading for protection. She begged him to shield her from the fate her father had chosen, and he smiled, a green energy shimmering around him, as if accepting her plea. Lord Eric, the arrogant noble, soon confronted them. He launched a barrage of fire magic, his attacks intense and powerful. Ayame screamed in terror, caught in the overwhelming magical assault. Eric gloated, confident in his victory, believing he had the young man completely cornered. Our boy, however, remained calm. He warned Eric that he had seen enough to gauge his opponent's level. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, the young man moved. He extended his finger and a small spark of yellow energy appeared, a quiet but potent threat. He parried Eric's direct energy blasts with ease, his movements fluid and precise. Eric was shocked by the young man's unexpected agility and defensive power. The young man then called out, "My turn now, Eric." He held his glowing yellow sword aloft, his eyes burning with a determined red light, ready to unleash his true might. Eric, now serious, responded by charging his own power, his hands glowing with both fire and lightning, promising a devastating attack. He unleashed a torrent of elemental magic, sending fire spears and thunder spears hurtling towards our boy. The young man rushed forward, deflecting multiple fire and lightning attacks with his glowing sword, a whirlwind of motion. He was airborne, dodging and deflecting with incredible grace, creating a shield of energy around himself. He remained calm and intense, surrounded by the chaotic fire. Eric was certain his barrage was inescapable, yet the young man was completely unharmed. He had moved so quickly, so perfectly, that not a single attack seemed to land. "Is that all?" our boy asked, his voice steady. He then rushed forward, surrounded by a fierce blue energy, initiating his counterattack. Eric recoiled in pain, blocking a yellow energy blast from the young man's sword. He was utterly surprised as the attack struck him directly in the face, drawing blood. Eric was in disbelief, unable to comprehend how a mere swordsman could withstand and counter his magic. The young man then revealed the secret to his power, his cursed blade, Amakui. He explained that his sword devoured all supernatural energy, and magic was no exception. What's more, it could return what it devoured, meaning Eric had been struck by his own magic. Our boy's sword glowed with a menacing purple energy, radiating power as he demonstrated Amakue's full capabilities, now infused with fire and yellow energy from Eric's own attacks. Eric clutched his face and stomach, writhing in pain, utterly defeated. He raged at the young man, still clinging to his noble pride, but our boy remained unyielding. He challenged Eric, telling him to choose, stand, or fall. Eric, desperate and furious, let out a yell, and a terrifying purple energy began to emanate from his eye, crackling with immense power. This was only the beginning. The real storm hadn't hit yet. The duel between Eric and the mysterious swordsman reached a fever pitch, each combatant pushing their limits. Eric, with his light blue hair, clenched his fists, a determined yet shocked expression on his face as yellow lightning surged around him, powering up his lightning raiment and activating his mystic eye of lightning. His subordinate cried out, warning him that such power would cost him his life, but Eric, blinded by pride, refused to become a laughingstock for the other heirs of the elements. Our protagonist, the man with dark hair, moved swiftly, surrounded by crackling yellow lightning and blue energy, surprised by Eric's sudden burst of speed. Eric smirked confidently, lightning still swirling around him, pushing our hero back, clearly amused by the challenge. The swordsman, despite his initial surprise, quickly adapted. He unleashed his own technique, Heaven Eater, a power that allowed him to consume Eric's energy, declaring that he would take Eric's strength for himself. Eric, unwilling to yield, retaliated with a furious scream, summoning his lightning blade, a glowing sword surrounded by intense orange, flame-like energy. The swordsman responded by holding his own blade, creating a shield of swirling gray smoke and blue energy that deflected the incoming lightning bolts. The battle intensified, with Eric declaring that his mystic eye and lightning raiment made him unbeatable, allowing him to see all attacks. Our hero acknowledged Eric's incredible reaction time, realizing that Eric could sense the flow of his power, not just his movements. With a determined glint in his red eyes, the swordsman held out his hand, his sword glowing with purple and yellow energy. He lunged forward, his blade a blur of yellow light, striking with such force that Eric screamed in distress, dark energy and lightning erupting around him. Eric crouched defensively, a crescent-shaped blue energy wave forming around him, but the swordsman attacked relentlessly, creating multiple yellow energy slashes. Eric grimaced, tense, and surrounded by lightning, yet he still stood, determined but visibly pained, his fists clenched amidst the crackling energy. He then revealed his glowing eye, a wide, confident smirk on his face, asserting his dominance. The swordsman struck downwards, his blow met by Eric's forearm, both surrounded by lightning. Eric continued to smirk, extending his hands, confident in his power, even covering his face triumphantly. But our hero, his red eyes burning with resolve, merely smirked back. Just as the duel raged on, outside interference struck. A robed figure, Luna's father, intervened, casting support magic from a glowing green orb. Eric's subordinate immediately cried out, reminding everyone that outside interference was forbidden in such a duel. The robed man simply scoffed, stating that nobility made the rules. Luna, seeing her father's actions, felt powerless, frustrated that she couldn't stop the spell. She desperately wanted to interfere, feeling that this was her fight, and her father, in turn, called her a brat. Luna, who had been bound by green magical ropes, looked shocked and distressed, while her parents, in their dark robes, reacted with wide eyes. The swordsman, thinking of Luna, acknowledged her as his partner. He realized he could handle the magical attacks, but Eric's mystic eye was different. It allowed him to perceive the very source of power flow, not just physical movements. He praised Eric's strength but vowed to surpass it. Eric, still confident, found this amusing. Our hero stood in a ready stance, his red eyes fixed, his sword glowing with yellow energy, preparing for his next move. Eric lunged, lightning crackling around him, but the swordsman defended, blocking the attack. Eric, with his glowing eye and smug smirk, continued to attack with a glowing yellow blade. Then, with a sudden burst, the swordsman used instant flash. Eric's confident smirk faltered, replaced by a shocked and distressed expression, sweat beading on his wide eyes. He had claimed he could see all attacks, but now he screamed, "He's gone!" The swordsman struck downwards, leaving an afterimage as Eric, below him, was hit by a wave of blue energy. Eric barely registered a presence and a lightning strike, realizing it was merely an afterimage. The swordsman then unleashed Empty Cicada, one of his 7 great swords. Eric screamed in rage and pain, clutching his shoulder, which glowed with green healing magic as his arm was severed. The swordsman calmly stated that recovery magic should be simple enough to reattach an arm or two. Eric raged, refusing to lose to a mere swordsman, his words echoing his earlier boasts. He realized the swordsman had used his presence and a lightning strike as a decoy, exploiting his mystic-eyed speed. Luna's father then told Eric that it took courage to admit defeat. But the swordsman, his red eyes cold and calm, pressed his sword across Eric's neck. Eric screamed in pain and fear, blood seeping from the wound, his wide, fearful eyes reflecting the blade. He continued to scream, calling swordsman trash, deserving to grovel at his feet. Our hero simply told him to shut up, pressing the blade further, then asked if he wanted more. Eric, now terrified, begged for mercy, threatening to tell his father, the Count, and boasting of their immense power. The swordsman, his red eyes intense and determined, calmly stated that he knew nothing of kingdom politics. He merely uttered a chilling phrase, "Dead men tell no tales." He wasn't talking about himself, but about the duel itself. Eric, in a desperate attempt, promised to void the contract with Luna's father and admit defeat. But the swordsman added a new condition to the stakes. Because Eric had used subordinates during the duel, he would overwrite the contract onto his mystic sigil. Eric looked utterly shocked and terrified, realizing the implications of an absolute oath. The swordsman, with a dark red aura surrounding him, simply said, "Farewell, mage," before delivering the final blow. "Sleep for all eternity," he declared, as Eric screamed one last time. The dark-haired man, Ayame, delivered a swift, brutal strike, plunging his blade through the chest of the light blue-haired noble Eric. "Sleep for eternity," he declared, his voice cold and unwavering. Eric screamed, a guttural cry of agony, blood gushing from his mouth as he collapsed, the sword still piercing him. Ayame stood over the fallen noble, a grim testament to the life he had just taken, thinking how Luna would likely not approve of such an act. With Eric defeated, Ayame carried his unconscious body away, leaving the other mages stunned and retreating, overwhelmed by his sheer power. He reassured Luna that the matter was settled, and the red-haired Ayame-san, Eric's companion, was overcome with gratitude for her friend's rescue, thanking Ayame profusely. Our boy simply dismissed her thanks, stating he only did what anyone should. He found the magic fight exhilarating, a thrill that Ayame-san had predicted he would enjoy. However, a closer look at the Griffon's wounds made him pause. The cuts and magic used were far different from Eric's style, stirring a quiet suspicion in his mind. Ayame-san noticed his unease and asked if something was wrong, but he quickly brushed it off, keeping his thoughts to himself. 1 week later, Ayame and Luna arrived at her home, a quiet, peaceful village. Luna, beaming with joy, rushed to greet her parents, her voice echoing with the simple happiness of being home. Luna's mother, a kind woman in an apron, welcomed her daughter with open arms and eyed Ayame with curiosity. He introduced himself, explaining how Luna had been a great help to him. Overwhelmed with emotion, Luna's parents thanked him for saving their daughter, their gratitude profound. Ayame, ever humble, insisted he only did what was right. Luna's mother, with a playful glint in her eye, teased Luna and Ayame about being a couple, which Luna quickly denied, adding a flustered yet. The mother apologized for the inconvenience of his journey, explaining that her husband was still recovering from his ordeal. Ayame assured her it was no trouble at all. Luna then brought up the magic contract, wondering if its terms would truly hold. The scene shifted to a chained Eric, a sinister smile playing on his lips, confirming that the binding contract sigil was indeed unbreakable. He explained that while curses could be cast unilaterally, the terms set by Ayame as the duel's victor were absolute. Not even death could break them. Luna's parents expressed their deepest thanks, not just for the nullified debt, but for him protecting their daughter, which meant more than anything. Ayame revealed a deeper motivation. Luna had done much for him, and this was his way of repaying her kindness. He was simply following his own sense of righteousness. Luna's father tried to offer Ayame money as a token of their gratitude, but he refused, explaining that his body had been broken by the strain of the unfair debt. Instead, Ayame announced his decision to team up with Luna, proposing they become adventurers and seek a big score. Luna's mother, insisting on showing their appreciation, offered him a feast, boasting of their village's fresh ingredients. Ayame, touched by their generosity, gladly accepted. He was utterly amazed by the meal, exclaiming at the incredible delicious food. Luna's father, impressed by Ayame's duel, likened him to a sword saint. Ayame, intrigued, asked about this title. He learned that even in an age dominated by magic, a supreme swordsman, a sword saint, could master the blade to such an extent that even high-class mages couldn't stand against them. Ayame's eyes gleamed with excitement. He declared his desire to cross blades with such a warrior. Without hesitation, he decided he would meet this sword saint. Soon, Ayame and Luna were deep within the Arcadia Great Forest, following rumors of the sword saint's hidden home. Luna noted the vastness of the forest, wondering how much farther they had to go. Ayame knew it wouldn't be simple, especially with rumors that the sword saint hadn't shown themselves in public recently. Despite the challenge, they made good progress, largely due to Luna's search magic, which she proudly proclaimed was the one thing she was truly good at. During a monster encounter, Ayame used body enhancement, while Luna's search magic pinpointed 2 enemies in front and 3 on the right. Ayame swiftly dispatched wolf-like creatures, and Luna watched in awe, realizing that controlling multiple spells like that was beyond an ordinary mage's ability. He reflected that even Eric, a powerful noble, had relied on others for body enhancement. Luna commented on his past recklessness, venturing into dangerous jungles alone, making him realize she might be more perceptive than he thought. For her, he had truly felt like a savior. Ayame, ever modest, brushed off her praise, calling himself a simple swordsman, but Luna insisted it was precisely because he was like that. Later, by the campfire, Luna confessed she thought he was really cool. He simply acknowledged her words, understanding her earnestness. He asked if she was truly sure about adventuring, reminding her she could have stayed home until things settled. Luna then revealed her lifelong dream. Ever since she was a child, she had loved tales of adventure and always wanted to see the world with her own 2 feet. She promised to support him always, with him on the front line and her in the rear. Ayame accepted her help, then told her to get some rest. As Luna slept peacefully, Ayame gazed at her, a quiet appreciation in his eyes for her beauty. He mused that while people's kindness and foolishness remained constant across worlds, seeing her reminded him that this truly was another world, full of its own unique wonders. The next morning, a subtle unease settled over him. Something felt off. Deep in the great forest, Luna suddenly couldn't sense any monsters. Ayame, sensing a hidden presence, instructed her to spread her search magic as wide and thin as possible. Luna, with a powerful burst of energy, cast the spell again but confirmed she still found nothing. Ayame understood. That explained everything. Ayame understood. That explained everything. Ayame understood. That explained everything. He drew his sword, calling out its name, Heaven Eater, release! With a mighty slash, the very scenery around them split apart like a veil. Ayame explained his familiarity with barriers, revealing that he had cut through a powerful one using Heaven Eater, a blade that devoured special powers. Before them stood a hidden house, clearly the Sword Saint's home. Luna nervously called out, her voice echoing in the sudden silence, asking if anyone was there. They waited, thinking the place was empty, but Ayame's sharp senses detected a presence. He quickly apologized, realizing someone was indeed there. From the shadows, a cloaked figure, glowing with an ethereal blue energy, emerged. The Sword Saint apologized for the slow response, saying it was rare for visitors to find their way here. Ayame's eyes narrowed, recognizing the immense power of the figure who had managed to approach him from behind, without him even noticing. This was the challenge he had sought. The real storm hasn't hit yet. The chapter opened with the heads of the 5 ducal houses, discussing a troubling incident. It seemed the heir of House Carter, a young man named Eric, had lost to a swordsman from an eastern country, someone with no renown. This was a significant blow to the standing of mages, and the council was keen to investigate. Lord Grace, the head of one of the 5 elemental houses, had a knowing smile as he suggested a solution. He proposed sending his own daughter, Glear, to gain experience and achievements by handling the matter. Glear was tasked with confirming the swordsman's strength and eliminating him if he proved to be a nuisance. Her mission was to demonstrate the undeniable might of Magikind, reminding everyone who truly held power in this magic-ruled world. With a calm, confident smile, Glear simply understood her father's wishes. Meanwhile, the swordsman in question, Light, was with a young woman named Ayame. Another man, Liana, approached them, asking if Light was indeed the legendary sword saint. Light humbly denied such a grand title, though he admitted he was sometimes called that. Liana, holding a wooden sword, then boldly asked Light to cross blades with him. Light noticed the man's weapon was a katana, a sword from the Far East, and assumed he was a samurai. Ayame, still holding a piece of cloth, looked at the guest with curiosity before suggesting they talk inside. Once settled, Light introduced himself, and Ayame introduced herself as Luna, quickly correcting it to Ayame. Ayame asked Light about the guest, who simply stated Liana was a challenger. Light explained that he had unfortunately injured his dominant arm and couldn't offer the match Liana hoped for. Ayame, her eyes wide with concern, looked at Liana and offered to take her place in the spar. Even Ayame, who had just met Liana, could sense the formidable aura around her, her eyes widening in realization. Light, gripping his wooden sword, had no objections to the proposed spar, seeing it as a good opportunity for Liana to test her own strength. He then bowed slightly, expressing his gratitude and acceptance of the challenge. Liana introduced herself to Ayame, and the young woman eagerly looked forward to facing her. The spar began, and Ayame launched forward with an explosive yell, her wooden sword a blur. Light observed her with a discerning eye, noting her impressive strength. Ayame wasn't just relying on brute force, she was using a form of body enhancement magic, or perhaps a spell that affected her blade directly. Light realized that sheer strength wouldn't be enough to win this match. With a fierce cry, Ayame spun, her wooden sword radiating a potent blue energy that crackled around her. The sheer force and speed of her attack created a stunning display of power, an overwhelming surge of blue slashes. Light felt the immense accumulation of training behind each blow, marveling at how much effort Ayame must have poured into her art at such a young age. In a flash, Light had disarmed Ayame, his wooden sword now resting against her neck, the spar over in an instant. He conceded the match, praising her excellent swordsmanship. Liana thanked Light for the spar, and he, in turn, thanked Ayame for the challenge. Light then asked Ayame, with such incredible skill, where and how she had learned to fight like that. Ayame explained that her training came from the battlefield. Light observed that her original style seemed designed to be used in conjunction with offensive magic. She had been reinforcing her body and blade with magic, yet he felt she could unleash even more aggressive spells. Ayame was surprised he could discern so much from their brief exchange. Light explained that he could tell by the flow of her footwork and stance. He continued, noting her precise and fast spellcasting, even sharper than Eric's. He wondered why such an excellent mage would choose the sword in a world ruled by magic. Liana, still with her injured arm, then surprised everyone by asking Light if he would care to face her as well. Light, feeling a surge of excitement, was more than ready for a good bout. The second spar began. Light was immediately impressed by Liana's speed, watching her effortlessly dodge his strike. He was clearly surprised by her swiftness, his surprise evident as he avoided another of her attacks. Their wooden swords clashed with a resounding thud, sparks of blue energy erupting at the point of impact. Then, their blades met in a powerful explosion of orange energy, a testament to the raw, innate power Liana possessed. Light conceded the match, acknowledging that Liana had only used her left hand throughout their intense duel. He truly found her exceptional. Liana, with a gentle smile, expressed her hope that they could spar again when he was back at full strength, marveling at the vastness of the world and the tales of samurai. Light, humbled, admitted he still had much to learn. He asked Liana her age, and she revealed she was 28. He was stunned, realizing she had reached such a profound level in her 20s. He called it true genius, a talent for the sword that went beyond mere effort. Liana, however, said she relied more on instinct than theory. Light respectfully disagreed, explaining that he hadn't sensed talent from her sword at all. He revealed that he himself was a man almost devoid of natural talent. Her sword, he said, was built on an immense foundation of practice and hard-earned experience. He described her path not just as a path, but as a path of Ashura, one walked through hell. He was genuinely glad to have met her. Liana, in turn, vowed to train even harder, aspiring to become a swordsman as noble as him. She believed that because she lacked talent, she had no choice but to polish her sword through sheer relentless effort. Liana then, quite suddenly, asked Light if he would consider becoming her teacher, citing her family circumstances and believing his technique-perfected style would suit her. Light, however, declined, explaining that he wasn't very good at teaching and it would be an imposition on Ayame. Ayame, however, looked distressed, revealing her own family obligations prevented her from taking on such a role. Liana smiled softly at Light, acknowledging that everyone had their own complex circumstances. Then, Light's expression turned serious as he looked at Liana, asking why she had placed a barrier that repelled mages around them. Liana, her eyes darkening, responded that to answer that, she would have to ask him if he had ever heard the name, the Ripper. Ayame gasped, repeating the name with a look of pure shock. This was only the beginning. The real storm hasn't hit yet. In a bustling town, hushed whispers spread concerning a mysterious figure known only as the Ripper. This heinous serial killer specifically targeted mages, leaving a trail of dread in their wake. Our protagonist, Ayame Dono, found himself entangled in these dark events. He revealed an injury he sustained from a sneak attack, a sharp slash that appeared identical to those found on other victims, including a respected magic knight. The assailant struck once, then vanished, leaving Ayame to face suspicion in pursuit from the very knights he sought to aid. Ayame possessed a unique anti-mage barrier, which explained why it had eluded detection from normal magical searches. When asked how he could perceive through such defenses, he simply mentioned his heightened 5 senses. He was innocent, yet in a world where magic reigned supreme, he knew he would be punished unless the true culprit was found. A compassionate young woman, Liana, expressed her sympathy, addressing him as Sword Saint, but he gently corrected her, stating, "Just Light is fine." Light then shared a peculiar observation from a recent encounter with a griffin. The beast bore sharp wounds, yet they were clearly not inflicted by a sword. He had seen similar wounds on several other monsters, leading him to believe that the Ripper was, in fact, a mage employing a unique magic that mimicked sharp slashes rather than a swordsman as initially believed. With neither the knights nor Light having found a solid lead, he advised Liana to be cautious, promising to share any new information. Liana, visibly flustered, quickly dismissed any concerns, though her reaction suggested a deeper impression. Light, observing her, mused that the true potential of her own sword lay far ahead. His companion, Luna, noted the apparent connection between Light and Liana, but Light brushed it off, believing she was simply interested in his sword. He then inquired about the Magic Knights, a prestigious organization of high-ranking, incantationless mages whose skill was universally guaranteed. Luna added that the kingdom had been terrified when one of their own had been killed. Suddenly, Light sensed an imminent threat, warning Luna to cease talking as enemies had targeted their location. Activating his physical enhancement, Light confidently called out to the hidden attackers. 3 cloaked figures emerged, surprised that their mana hadn't been completely cut off. Their captain, a stern-looking man, remarked on Light's sharp instincts, calling him a barbarian known as a swordsman, and declared he had stood out a bit too much. He intended to teach Light a lesson, initiating an attack with Ice Spear. To the attacker's astonishment, Light effortlessly cut through the magical projectiles with his sword, confirming the rumors of his ability to cleave magic itself. The captain, urging his subordinates to quicken their pace, ordered a more potent spell, Avalanche. Light, once again, parried the powerful magical assault, frustrating the captain, who couldn't comprehend how a mere barbarian swordsman could achieve such feats. The captain, refusing to return empty-handed, unleashed an ice storm. Light deflected it, prompting the captain to use a unique technique, Amagwai Release, which channeled light through his sword, delivering a devastating magical strike. The subordinates watched in shock, realizing their captain was using magic with a sword. After gathering what he called data, the captain and his squad retreated, warning Light that he would soon come to know the true essence of magic. Light remained composed, acknowledging that his mysterious attackers would likely return, especially since he had inadvertently revealed information about his unique sword technique. Back at the Adventurers Guild, rumors of Light's incredible feat of taking down a high-ranked griffin spread rapidly, further fueled by tales of him defeating Eric of the esteemed Kata family. Light met with the guild receptionist, who apologized for the delay in appraising the griffin materials. The value of the materials astonished him. They were worth enough to construct a mansion in the city. The receptionist explained that while the price was considered low because it wasn't a designated quest, Light's solo victory over a high-ranked monster warranted a certification as an S-rank adventurer. However, as it was his first quest, the higher-ups decided to grant him an A rank for now, observing his progress. This news sent a ripple of awe through the guild, as such a rapid promotion hadn't been seen since the legendary Sword Saint. Light, now an A-rank adventurer, confirmed he could access areas below the 20th floor. As he prepared to leave, the receptionist offered her contact information, expressing her sympathy for a swordsman in a magic supremacy world and urging him to reach out if he ever needed assistance. Liana, riding through the rain, reflected on the difference between Master Light's sword, a genius's flawless art, and Ayame's path, forged through sheer effort and experience. Despite her deep desire for his guidance, her position as Liana Grace, eldest daughter of the powerful Grace family, one of the 5 great magical families, forbade her from learning the sword. She was slipping away from her house, only to return to her mother's embrace, her internal conflict unresolved and the world's magical mysteries still unfolding. Liana, the eldest daughter of House Grace and top graduate of the Magic Academy, returned home. After her mother reminded her of her esteemed position, she was sent to meet her father and brother, Gleer. They were discussing a significant event. The heir of House Carter had been defeated by a swordsman. Liana was shocked. She hadn't heard of such a thing. Gleer explained that Eric, a wordless mage who had graduated second in their year, was slated to join the Mage Corps, making his defeat by a mere swordsman perplexing. The family decided to frame a swordsman as the Ripper, to appease the public while secretly pursuing the true culprit. Liana questioned the ethics, noting the real culprit was unlikely to be a swordsman. Her brother calmly stated their priority was to present a narrative to the masses, handling the actual investigation behind the scenes. When her father asked if she objected, Liana remained silent, understanding nobles maintained order, even if it meant bending the truth. She was then assigned to deploy with the Frost Corps. Meanwhile, in a bustling town, whispers followed a mysterious swordsman from the Far East. Tales of his incredible feats defeating a cockatrice in 10 seconds, soloing 5 basilisks, earned him a reputation quickly approaching S rank. This swordsman, Ayame, noticed people no longer looked down on him as they once did. His growing power was shifting perceptions. Ayame's journey through town was interrupted when he witnessed thugs harassing an older man. Without hesitation, he intervened, swiftly incapacitating the aggressors. He then turned to the injured man, who thanked him profusely. Noticing the man's hurt leg and unsteadiness, Ayame offered to help him reach his destination. As they walked, the man realized Ayame was a noble swordsman, expressing surprise that he didn't look down on his kind. Ayame shared his philosophy. While society often valued certain abilities, all humans were fundamentally the same. Strength hierarchies were societal constructs, not inherent truths. What was prized in one era might differ in another. The man found Ayame's perspective refreshing and thanked him. Upon reaching his home, the man offered our boy some baked sweets as gratitude, which he graciously accepted. As they parted, the man hoped for a future meeting, using Ayame's name, which surprised him since he hadn't introduced himself. He wondered if his sword had somehow revealed it. Returning home, Ayame was greeted by Luna. He handed her the provisions and money, asking her to manage their finances, as he was terrible with currency. Luna happily agreed, blushing as she thought their domestic routine felt like that of a married couple. For dinner, Luna proudly presented a delicious beef stew. Ayame was momentarily taken aback, as cows had been forbidden in his homeland. He tasted the stew, utterly captivated. The flavors were rich and concentrated, the texture perfect, and it went down smoothly. He declared it delicious, even suggesting it might surpass his own mother's cooking. Luna, flustered but pleased, humbly dismissed his praise, saying she could never be a Creole chef. Shyly, she added, she might be okay with being his personal chef. Ayame expressed his gratitude, leaving Luna wondering how to interpret his words. Later, Ayame found Luna studying magic, diligently working to improve herself. He praised her dedication, which she admitted was driven by a desire to catch up to him. Ayame then told her she saw herself and the world clearly, and her abilities were far greater than she gave herself credit for. Luna was deeply touched, revealing she had never had much confidence. Ayame leaned in close, calling her name softly. He repeated, "Luna," his gaze intense. Luna blushed, her heart pounding. Then, with an abrupt change of tone, he simply said, "Let's move." Luna stared, shocked and confused, utterly unprepared for his sudden shift. Luna looked flustered as our protagonist suggested they move from his small rented place, explaining it was too cramped for two and proposing separate rooms, noting her youth. Luna panicked, citing high upkeep costs, but he calmly assured her they had ample funds for a fine house. Still worried about an adventurer's unstable income, Luna objected when he offered to move out, reminding him his fame would lead to trouble. He then gently asked if she was unhappy sharing a place. Luna clarified her true desire, to become a proper mage to protect his back. He revealed he'd secured a permit for the National Library, planning to study magic books globally for that purpose. She reiterated her goal, and he smiled, looking forward to it. Luna then timidly asked to stay longer, to which he confessed he was about to ask her the same. The scene shifted to the 10th floor of a dungeon. Our protagonist, Luna, and 2 other young women battled tough golems, fearing defeat. He declared he would back them up, explaining that golems regenerated unless their core, a seal on their forehead, was smashed. Swiftly he moved, smashing multiple cores. The other adventurers recognized him from rumors, asking if he was the legendary swordsman from the Far East. He confirmed, and they showered him with praise for saving them, though he noted they were deeper than their skill level warranted. The girls explained their third-year school assignment required reaching floor 15 for credit, a challenge for lower-ranked nobles. Our protagonist confirmed their noble status. One girl wondered why he'd mind associating with a swordsman. He mused that Luna would skewer them for such a comment. He then agreed to their request to join them again the next day. Back home, Luna intensely studied magic books, clearly stressed. He observed that the noble girl's company was new to her. He then informed her he'd join them again tomorrow, making her question if he was skipping the library. He acknowledged her strong magical presence and reminded her not to drop her guard in the dungeon. Luna confidently agreed. She revealed she'd passed the Magic Academy's entrance exam but chose not to enroll. He asked why. Luna explained the brutal social hierarchy among nobles, implying it would be worse for her, despite commoners with talent being allowed. He agreed it was a wise choice. The next morning, the three noble girls enthusiastically greeted them, affectionately calling Luna adorable partner Chan. They asked how far they'd go, and our protagonist suggested a bit further. The girls continued, commenting on Luna's small stature but large chest, then boldly asked if he and Luna were dating. Luna, flustered, struggled to respond. He smoothly redirected the conversation, internally noting the girls weren't bad, though their excitement was peculiar. He let their behavior slide. After a successful day, the girls thanked him and showed proof of reaching floor 15. They invited him and Luna to hang out and help again. Our protagonist excused himself, heading to the blacksmith. Luna confirmed he knew the way, and he assured her he did. At the blacksmith's, he presented his blade for honing, admiring its excellent craftsmanship. The blacksmith was instantly intrigued by the katana, a rare sight from his homeland, admitting he struggled to find a smith to handle such a top-class piece. He agreed to look, confirming payment. As the blacksmith examined the sword, his eyes widened, recognizing it as a zero-generation special magic tool and artifact. Our protagonist's eyes widened in surprise, questioning, "Artifact?" In the palace library, a young girl named Elisha found a book titled Lovers in Time, a discovery that surprised her. Her companion, Dante, learned the librarian had lent it, a personal item without an imperial seal. Elisha summarized the story of a human girl and an immortal man, then blurted out the girl's death. Dante, annoyed by the spoiler, was quickly told this wasn't the cruel ending. The girl was reborn in a different form, and upon reaching adulthood, the man recognized her instantly. Elisha found this illogical, as her appearance and manner would be completely altered. Dante, recalling his father's words, mused that in a world with magic, another impossible thing was hardly a stretch. His father believed there were far more amazing things than magic, and nothing was truly impossible. He considered their own unlikely journey, how they, who should never have met, now lived together. Elisha then asked if he could recognize someone similarly transformed. He affirmed he could, especially if that person were her. He affirmed he could, especially if that person were her. He affirmed he could, especially if that person were her. Meanwhile, Lucy Forte, the woman Dante had brought to the palace, bore no resemblance to Elisha. Yet, Dante's inner thoughts echoed with certainty he would always recognize her. He pondered her unexplained departure and sudden return, concluding that now that she was back and he had found her, the answer was decided. He would never let her go again. 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 Later, in a grand palace hallway, Eric discussed his new department assignment with Lucy, seeking a balance between proximity to the main palace and distance from constant scrutiny. Lucy urged him to stop nagging, confident in his choices. He confirmed they were heading to her new post immediately, prompting a look of surprise from her as she realized their destination. He confirmed they were heading to her new post immediately, prompting a look of surprise from her as she realized their destination. He confirmed they were heading to her new post immediately, prompting a look of surprise from her as she realized their destination. They arrived at the headquarters of the First Magic Knights, an elite imperial order of mages led by Captain Dante Renard. There, they met Gabriel Duncan, the vice-captain, a man personally scouted by Dante. Gabriel, a cheerful individual, welcomed Lucy Forte. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. He explained the unprecedented nature of her direct assignment to the First Knights, assuring her that despite initial curiosity, her talent was officially recognized by both the captain and the emperor. Leaning closer, Gabriel then revealed he had witnessed her actions at the Shilan Plains, expressing his astonishment at her magic control. A wave of dread washed over Lucy. He knew her true identity. Gabriel concluded, surprised that the powerful mage he saw was none other than her. Just then, Dante appeared, calling out to Lucy. She acknowledged his early return, and he inquired about her well-being. When Dante asked Gabriel if he had explained everything, Lucy replied, more or less, causing Gabriel to protest loudly. When Dante asked Gabriel if he had explained everything, Lucy replied, more or less, causing Gabriel to protest loudly. When Dante asked Gabriel if he had explained everything, Lucy replied, more or less, causing Gabriel to protest loudly. When Dante asked Gabriel if he had explained everything, Lucy replied, more or less, causing Gabriel to protest loudly. When Dante asked Gabriel if he had explained everything, Lucy replied, more or less, causing Gabriel to protest loudly. Before he could elaborate, another knight approached Lucy, demanding she greet him as the new recruit. Dante immediately stepped in, ordering the knight to release her. The knight playfully accused Dante of favoritism, hinting at a broken trust. Dante's face hardened with anger. Suddenly terrified, the knight fell to the ground, profusely apologizing, explaining he was simply overjoyed to no longer be the newest member. Suddenly terrified, the knight fell to the ground, profusely apologizing, explaining he was simply overjoyed to no longer be the newest member. Suddenly terrified, the knight fell to the ground, profusely apologizing, explaining he was simply overjoyed to no longer be the newest member. The swordsman, Light, and his companion, Ayame, ventured deep into a perilous dungeon. They had reached the 20th floor, a domain gripped by an artificial heavy snow cycle, teeming with ghouls. Light warned Ayame to avoid the ghouls' paralyzing poison and their blood, which could be equally dangerous. Their mission was to scout the area and eliminate a specified number of ghouls. Ayame proved a capable fighter, earning Light's praise for her amazing work. Despite their efficiency, the sheer number of ghouls was concerning, and Light couldn't shake the feeling that the dungeon's anomalies were unnatural. Just as they completed their ghoul request and prepared to leave, Ayame was suddenly struck. In that vulnerable moment, a group of mages from the 5 great magical families appeared, led by Glare Grace. Glare immediately erected a magic barrier, trapping them. He coolly introduced himself, dismissing Light as a lowly swordsman and declaring his intent to make his move. Glare Grace's arrogance was palpable. He boasted that he would demonstrate the vast gap between a commoner and a true master, planning to eliminate Light and Ayame as an opening act. Light, accustomed to the hubris of nobles, retorted that Glare shouldn't get carried away just because he had beaten someone named Eric. Glare clarified his intention was not merely to defeat Light, but to erase his very existence, a divine sanction for daring to challenge noble prestige. Light, unfazed, challenged the mages to bring on their opening act. Glare's sister, Liana, who was also Ayame, had her own internal conflict. She had expressed her discomfort to her father about crucifying an innocent swordsman just to inflate noble egos, questioning the very concept of nobility that allowed such actions. From a young age, Liana had struggled with her family's rigid social concepts. Her perspective had been shaped years ago when, during an exploration, she was attacked by monsters and saved by a swordsman, her future teacher, the Sword Saint Light. His incredible swordplay had left an indelible mark, sparking a forbidden desire to learn swordsmanship herself. Her brother, Glare, had sternly warned her against such thoughts, asserting that magic was supreme and swordsmanship beneath a noble of their standing. This rebuke had deeply affected Liana, yet she secretly continued to train under her teacher. Later, she encountered another sword style, a beautiful and logical form distinct from Light's natural approach. She felt that was the path she should pursue, but her noble destiny forbade it. Back in the present, Glare Grace reiterated his intention to make light the opening act. Then, Liana, as Ayame, released her power, unleashing an Amagwai release. The mages attacked with spells like Hoarfrost and Ice Pillar, but Light moved with astonishing speed and skill, easily deflecting and countering their attacks. The mages quickly realized he was far stronger than any reports indicated, with one even recognizing him from a previous encounter. Light revealed that their initial attacks were merely a lure. He acknowledged their solid magic defense, but questioned if they truly believed he was the first formidable swordsman they had ever faced. Glare Grace, undeterred, explained the nobility's long-standing policy. "Geniuses appear in every era," he stated, "and we hunt down promising swordsmen." He declared swordsmanship to be trash before magic, and any exception, such as a swordsman beating a mage, must be crushed to maintain magic's absolute supremacy. He deemed Light's barbaric acts unforgivable. Light, embracing the challenge, declared that power was everything and justice, and suggested they determine whose power was truly superior. Glare agreed, calling upon Liana to step forward, ready to unleash her magic. As Liana hesitated, Light, with a look of concern, called out her name. The stage was set for a truly brutal conflict. Ayame found himself facing Luna, Liana's formidable older sister, after Liana was revealed as the young lady of the Grace family. Luna immediately launched a swift and powerful magical assault, moving with incredible speed. She confidently declared that a swordsman could never defeat a truly gifted mage, showcasing overwhelming, incantationless magic that completely outclassed Ayame. Luna mocked his efforts, claiming they were on different levels, while Liana watched in despair, believing Ayame had no chance. Luna cruelly dismissed Liana's concern, asserting Ayame's abilities were not beyond her sister's reach. Battered, Ayame recalled Luna's earlier kindness and his own admiration for his swordplay, remembering her words about his sword's true value. Despite his injuries, Luna continued to taunt him, calling him an idiot and growing bored. His body weakened under the ice's debuff. His bloodlust met with Luna's disdain. Ayame, resolved, declared he would handle Luna himself. When she unleashed more magic, he surprised her by nullifying its density with his katana. Shocked, Luna demanded his identity, to which he simply replied, "A samurai." He confirmed crossing swords with Liana, acknowledging her genuine passion for the blade. Luna then proposed a chilling wager referencing harakiri. Ayame questioned the stakes, and Luna revealed the terms. If he won, Liana's freedom was his. If Luna won, she would disown Liana entirely. Ayame was stunned but accepted, finding the alternative too dull. Liana, horrified, pleaded with Luna to stop, but the magical contract was already sealed. Luna, as the next head of the Grace family, asserted her inherent superiority, dismissing other lives as worthless. Ayame, disgusted, vowed to fight without holding back. Luna, confident in her knowledge of swordsmen, revealed her awareness of Ayame's katana as an artifact that devours and returns magic. She activated her formidable Amagui release. Ayame felt his vision blur, his body succumbing to the cold, unsure if anger or Liana's betrayal caused his panic. Yet, he managed to land a surprising blow. Luna acknowledged the danger of close-quarters combat, but remained certain Ayame's movements were hindered by her ice magic's debuff, which drained body heat and stamina. She believed he had lost before the fight began. Ayame struggled, his lungs freezing. Liana, seeing his agony, tried to intervene, reminding Luna that interfering was unfair. Ignoring Liana, Luna pressed her attack, convinced Ayame could not win on her terms. She unleashed a devastating technique, Amagui, Ice Blade, declaring it the finale. The powerful ice engulfed Ayame completely, and Luna laughed maniacally, certain of her victory. Liana screamed his name, her voice filled with desperate terror. The intense battle between Ayame and Glare raged on. Glare, confident in his magical prowess, unleashed a powerful attack, certain that his opponent was finished. To his shock, Ayame remained standing, seemingly unharmed. Glare quickly realized that Ayame's sword possessed an ability far beyond simple magic redirection. It consumed magic. This revelation brought a flicker of unease to Glare, who then activated his Flame Blade, an ability he had learned from Eric. Ayame, recognizing it as Amagui's technique, observed the fiery attack with a calm demeanor. Ayame then revealed a crucial detail. He had intentionally fed Eric misleading information, knowing full well that Glare would be the next challenger. He had prepared meticulously for this encounter. Glare, believing fire to be Ayame's weakness, boasted that his debuffs would be useless against the flames. Ayame simply stated that he hadn't intended to lie, only to set the stage. Frustrated, Gleer was given an ultimatum: admit defeat or face the consequences. Scornfully, Gleer dismissed the threat of mere fire magic and dared Ayame to unleash his full power. Ayame responded with a devastating strike, leaving Gleer screaming in agony and bleeding profusely. Desperate, Gleer pleaded for Ayame to stop, clinging to his status as the eldest son of the Grace family, convinced that he, a noble, could not possibly lose. He continued to assert his strength, proclaiming himself the strongest. Ayame, however, merely smiled. He confessed that his earlier struggles were an act, calling Gleer's performance not great. He explained that nobles often believe the world exists solely for them and that they are destined to win, and thus a mere swordsman could never defeat them. Gleer, utterly vanquished, collapsed, weakly uttering Ayame's name. Ayame then questioned Gleer's shock, asking how he could have blocked such an attack. His simple answer was that he merely cut down all obstacles, reaffirming his identity as a samurai. Gleer, overwhelmed, could only brand him a monster. Despite his severe injuries, Gleer stubbornly insisted on continuing the fight. Ayame landed another brutal blow, leaving him severely wounded and gasping for air. Even in his defeated state, Gleer continued to invoke his noble lineage, demanding respect as the eldest son of the Grace family. Ayame, weary of the predictable aristocratic rhetoric, then drew a purple blade. Terrified, Gleer finally admitted defeat and begged for his life. Ayame, with a solemn expression, activated his soul blade, a unique technique that severed only the soul, not the physical body. He struck Gleer, ensuring that Rihanna would finally be free. Ayame explained that he had only wounded Gleer enough to prevent him from standing properly for a while, sparing his life out of consideration for Rihanna, as Gleer was her brother. Rihanna, overcome with emotion, struggled to find words of gratitude. Ayame assured her that the magic contract with Gleer was now fulfilled and that she was free to forge her own path. He encouraged Rihanna to choose her future, reminding her that ultimately humans must follow their own will, regardless of the bonds that tie them. Rihanna, her eyes shining with newfound determination, declared her desire to learn swordsmanship from Lord Ayame. She envisioned a magic sword style, a fusion of magic and swordsmanship, which she wished to practice openly in the world. Ayame, surprised by the novel concept, praised her innovative spirit and eagerly asked if she would commit herself as his disciple. Rihanna joyfully accepted. Unbeknownst to them, news of Ayame's decisive victory had reached other powerful noble houses. A council of influential figures, noting his single-handed defeat of the Grace family's eldest son, acknowledged him as a formidable force. They concluded that Ayame Hujo was indeed the real deal, and decided to make him their next target. After her brother's public defeat, Rihanna admitted things were not okay with her family. Her father, deeply disappointed by the loss to a swordsman, disowned her and removed her from the mage corps, leaving her utterly penniless and without a home. Luna, hearing of Rihanna's plight, immediately extended a warm invitation for her to live with them, believing Ayame and Rihanna were a couple. Ayame, however, quickly clarified that their relationship was purely platonic, much to Luna's immediate disappointment. With Rihanna now part of their party, the trio decided to move within a month. Ayame proposed the Water City Akram, a place known for its lenient entry and exit management, beautiful scenery, and good public safety. He believed it would offer a fresh start, far from the awkwardness Rihanna might face in the capital. Meanwhile, Leaf, the manager of the Adventurer Guild, had been closely observing Ayame. He had heard the rumors and confirmed Ayame's extraordinary accomplishments, single-handedly defeating a griffin during his first dungeon exploration and subsequently taking down A-rank and S-rank monsters with fierce effort. Leaf acknowledged that while Ayame possessed no magic aptitude, he wielded supernatural abilities on par with magic, and his swordsmanship defied his apparent youth. Leaf, who had studied countless mages, found Ayame's unique power fascinating, believing he possessed something special. Leaf then approached Ayame with a grave concern: a series of brutal murders targeting mages, carried out by a serial killer dubbed the Ripper. Leaf revealed that even skilled mages from the Mage Corps were falling victim, leading him to believe the enemy had special countermeasures against magic. He sought Ayame's strength to defeat this elusive killer. The victims were found with excessively sharp cuts, showing traces of magic, and their heads were always missing. Though Leaf didn't know the Ripper's identity, he had a chilling speculation. The Ripper wasn't just killing mages. They were systematically extracting what he called the living brain of a mage, the very source of their magic, for their own dark research. In the kingdom, Magic research focused on mages' frontal lobes, the processing center for spells, where greater development indicated more talent. This research, however, took a grim turn, involving the illicit procurement of mages' heads. An elder nobleman approached Light, the protagonist, with a desperate plea: capture the massacre mage responsible for these atrocities. Though a non-mage, he was assured he could operate independently. The elder revealed Ayame, Light's companion, had a skilled support mage to assist. The highly skilled enemy had created such desperation that even a corpse was acceptable evidence. Rapidly spreading rumors detailed recent victims, including Kaios Shiden, one of the Mage Corp's strongest, and the Grace family's eldest daughter. These high-profile targets underscored the enemy's formidable power, leaving few to oppose them, which led to the elder's desperate request for his help, knowing he wouldn't hold back. Despite potential no-go opposition, the elder believed he was the best option. He accepted the mission, returning to Ayame and their friend Liana. Ayame explained the Adventurers Guild had officially requested their help in capturing the Massacre Mage. The severity was clear. A dead Massacre Mage was also acceptable. Our hero surmised the enemy was exceptionally cunning. He suggested they try to catch the culprits at a crime scene. Ayame, a former Mage Corps member familiar with all previous crime scenes, confessed there was no discernible pattern in locations or times. They decided to await further intelligence. Liana expressed her deep concern, recalling that even high-ranking mages had fallen victim to this elusive foe. He reassured them, explaining the guild had specifically requested him for his combat prowess. Ayame corroborated this, reminding Liana of his past successes. She vowed to contribute everything she could. He then asked to change the subject, expressing a desire to report to Master Liana, the Sword Saint. Ayame confirmed he meant the revered Sword Saint and agreed to accompany him, acknowledging the Sword Saint's invaluable past assistance. Upon arrival, Liana, their red-haired friend, greeted them, surprised to see Ayame. She invited them inside, explaining her family matters were mostly resolved and she was now staying with Ayame. Liana mentioned her temporary disownment, but believed her family would not forever ignore a mage of her talent. She anticipated a return, wanting to explore the world and contemplate her path. He agreed, emphasizing the importance of seeing the wider world for new perspectives. Liana also expressed a wish to visit Light regularly. She apologized for not teaching him the swordsmanship he truly desired. He dismissed her apology, asserting she had taught him something profoundly important, for which he was sincerely grateful. Later, he and Ayame began their sparring session. He affirmed his injuries were healed, launching into a fast-paced sword fight with Ayame augmenting her movements with magic. He observed their intense, unyielding nature, realizing this very quality was what he had always admired. After their vigorous sparring, he brought up the Massacre Mage mission again, asking if Ayame had also received the request. She confirmed it, noting the Adventurers Guild's apparent desperation. He proposed they work separately, a strategy Ayame readily endorsed. She explained his sword skills were most effective unburdened by coordination, and a dispersed approach was more efficient. With a touch of embarrassment, she admitted she also believed herself stronger alone. Ayame further reasoned that if they gathered, the enemy would become more cautious. They agreed to exchange information should anything arise. He declared his resolve to cut down the Massacre Mage the moment he encountered them, viewing it as a race to find them first. He added that being left defeated was a swordsman's ultimate shame. Ayame, concerned, acknowledged his formidable skill, but pointed out his true challenge wasn't his strength. She explained that when he fought, he tended to lose himself in the enjoyment, forgetting consequences. He conceded, believing all swordsmen shared this trait. This, he concluded, was a battle for swordsmen to remain true to their nature. In a grand chamber, the heads of several influential noble families convened, observing the conspicuous absence of the Grace family. One of the men remarked that attending would likely be impossible for them, especially after their Frost unit suffered a devastating defeat. The woman, identified as the head of the Freya family, and the man with blue hair, the head of the Walt family, along with the heads of the Light and Sylph families, all understood the implications. The discussion quickly turned to the Grace family's heir, Gleer, who, despite regaining consciousness, remained physically incapacitated and mentally terrified. The nobles wondered if the mysterious swordsman had truly defeated Gleer and his unit alone. One of the men conceded that, practically speaking, it was the only logical conclusion, prompting another to question if that made him stronger than even the legendary Sword Saint. The head of the Walt family then shifted the focus, asserting that their current problem wasn't the swordsman. He explained that the swordsman only eliminated threats that came after him, showing no intention of opposing mages otherwise. The true menace, he argued, was the Ripper, a shadowy figure actively attacking mages. The other nobles quickly agreed, recognizing the Ripper's attacks on high-ranking Mage Corps members as a very serious problem, threatening the authority of the nobility and the conservative faction. To combat this, they decided that all Corps members would operate in groups of 3 or more, even outside patrols, making the capture or elimination of the Ripper their highest priority. Meanwhile, a young woman named Luna, along with her companions, was diligently poring over documents related to the Ripper case. The sheer volume of information was overwhelming, and Luna noted that some details weren't even known to her own family, hinting at the fractured cooperation among the noble factions, particularly between the conservatives and the liberals. As she analyzed the crime reports, Luna realized that the timing of the attacks seemed random, but the locations formed a distinct pattern. She carefully connected the dots on a map, revealing a complex magic circle. This wasn't just any magic circle, it was a special one, subtly constructed to evade detection. Luna theorized that it had been completed a long time ago, and, if it was indeed a magical ritual covering the entire city, a major anomaly should have already occurred. She suspected the energy was either being intentionally stored or something further was being prepared. She then made a crucial observation. The Ripper's initial crimes were confined to the kingdom's capital, but more recent attacks extended to dungeons and the outskirts. She quickly realized that the magic circle she had drawn only accounted for the capital crimes. There was a second overlapping pattern, suggesting a double magic circle. Driven by a sudden flash of insight, Luna remembered seeing something similar in ancient texts. Her eyes glowed with magical energy as she rushed to the royal library with her companions, determined to find the oldest magic books. She quickly located a specific tome that depicted a magic circle identical in method and shape to the one she had uncovered. Although the book predated multi-layered magic structures by centuries, Luna instinctively knew it was the foundational design. The text described a forbidden magic that used human souls as a source of power, an art that ancient mages had attempted but ultimately failed to complete. Luna's realization was chilling. The Ripper's spree of crimes was not random acts of violence, but a meticulously planned, large-scale magical ritual. Someone was attempting to complete the most forbidden of ancient arts, a magic that traded desires and souls, to bring forth something truly terrifying. The truth behind the Ripper case was finally unveiled. Rihanna and her companion, Luna, discovered that the serial murders were part of a grand scheme to complete an ancient, unfinished magic. This forbidden ritual aimed to stack magical formulas three-dimensionally, a feat considered impossible in modern magic due to the enormous calculations required. Luna realized that the critical research paper, published only a few months prior by a noble, had flown under the radar, ensuring the true nature of the accumulating serial murders remained hidden from magical research. Luna, deep in the research, found the horrifying details. The Ripper was using human brains to construct the complex spell formula, sacrificing mages to power the ritual. Rihanna grasped the terrible reality. The situation escalated when Ayame appeared in the country. This unexpected turn of events seemingly caused the Ripper to rush their meticulously planned ritual. The murdered mages were merely sacrifices, their lives woven into a vast magic circle encompassing the entire city. Every life taken was a step toward activating this ancient, dark magic. Having uncovered the horrifying truth, Rihanna pondered their next move. She knew the authorities, being beholden to the high nobles, would likely be useless if the perpetrator was one of them, which seemed increasingly probable. Most members of the Mage Corps also came from noble families, making a fair investigation unlikely. Rihanna wished she still had the influence of her former Grace family. Luna suggested that only someone unburdened by such political ties, someone like Ayame, could confront this evil. Rihanna agreed, and they decided to find Ayame immediately. As they hurried to deliver the news, a sudden blue light enveloped them. They had been caught in teleportation magic, whisked away to a strange, brick-walled subspace. There, they discovered a gargantuan hydra, lying dead. Before they could fully process the sight, a man appeared. Rihanna recognized him as Count Neville, a figure who had once shown her kindness. Count Neville, confirming their suspicions, revealed that he had left clues for intelligent minds to discover the truth, knowing the self-important noble mages would never piece it together. He praised Luna for her intellect, confirming that she, not Rihanna, had truly uncovered his secret. Rihanna was aghast. Count Neville was the Ripper. She demanded to know why he committed such heinous crimes. He calmly explained his ambition to break through the magic limit. He believed that the technology of magic had reached its ceiling, and he sought to surpass it, even through forbidden arts. Rihanna furiously questioned if such an achievement was worth the cost of human lives. Count Neville, unfazed, spoke of his lifelong quest to understand magic's true purpose, pondering if God awaited beyond its boundaries. He asserted that he harbored no hatred for mages. To him, all lives were equal. But his intellectual curiosity, he declared, simply ranked above everything else. Drawing her sword, Rihanna declared that his atrocities must be stopped. She reminded him of his past kindness, how he, unlike other nobles, never looked down on swordsmen and treated everyone with respect. She had once respected him greatly, but this path he chose was undeniably wrong. She vowed to stop him by force. Count Neville dismissed her notions of right and wrong, stating he merely followed his own instincts. However, he acknowledged that his actions were unacceptable to normal people. With a chilling resolve, he prepared to remove the obstacles standing in his way, declaring his ultimate goal, to reach God, beyond magic itself. Luna, terrified, wondered how they could possibly fight such a powerful and deranged individual. But Rihanna, with a determined gaze, reassured her. She declared that she would be the vanguard, leading the charge. Luna, recalling a memory of herself and Ayame in a similar formation, where Ayame was the vanguard and she the rearguard, found her resolve. Now, Rihanna was the vanguard, and Luna would be the rearguard. Together, they prepared to go all out. The battle for the future of magic and countless lives was about to begin against a man driven by an insatiable, deadly curiosity. Liana Grace, the eldest daughter of House Grace, found herself in a profound discussion with Count Neville. He observed her closely, noting the immense burdens she carried on her young shoulders. He acknowledged her exceptional intelligence and the doubts she harbored about the true nature of noble society, admitting that her misgivings were not misplaced. Count Neville even agreed that the current state of their society was unhealthy, particularly the notion that mages stood above all others. He believed values and standards inevitably changed with the times, and such a rigid hierarchy was unsustainable. Liana wondered if a noble was truly allowed to think such things. He assured her that thoughts were always free, and as long as they remained unspoken, there was no issue. He envisioned a future where human beings were free, and one day, she too would find her own path to freedom. With a challenging glint in his eye, he then invited her to face him whenever she felt ready. Liana knew she had no choice but to strike. She enhanced her body with magic, combining it with her swordsmanship, a feat Count Neville acknowledged as impressive. As their battle began, Count Neville quickly identified a fatal weakness in her powerful ice magic, its vulnerability to heat. He moved with astonishing speed, surprising Liana with his prowess. He began to analyze her magical structure, synchronizing his own magic with hers. Suddenly, Liana felt an incredible lightness, a surge of power from deep within, and wondered if it was Luna's magic aiding her. But Count Neville was too quick, unleashing a weakening spell that caught Liana off guard. The weakening magic took its toll, leaving Liana in pain and unable to perceive his attacks. Count Neville merely observed, noting the vast difference in their strength. He then turned his attention to Luna, who had stepped in to cast a barrier, protecting Liana from a devastating blow. Luna, injured from the effort, apologized, lamenting her poor healing abilities. Liana, feeling like a burden, also offered her apologies. But Luna quickly activated magic enhancement, perfectly synchronizing with Liana's healing magic and amplifying its power. Liana's self-healing accelerated at an incredible rate. Count Neville watched, fascinated by Luna's multi-layered magic formula and her ability to directly interfere with another's magical output. He confessed that he had originally planned to eliminate anyone who uncovered such a truth. His ultimate goal, he revealed, was to surpass the magical critical point and ascend closer to godhood. For this, he needed Liana's mind, her immense magical capacity, and her extraordinary eyes. He intended to kill both Liana and Luna, using them as nourishment and foundational stones on his path. Just as he prepared to deliver a painless final strike, Ayame, the swordsman, appeared. Ayame demanded to know why Count Neville was there. Count Neville explained that when the girls hadn't returned, he had traced their presence through the library. Luna questioned how Ayame, who couldn't sense magic, had found them. Ayame simply replied that he had used his 5 senses, seeing a glowing thread that Liana recognized as a glimpse into the world I saw. Ayame instructed Liana to get back and stay with Luna, then turned to face Count Neville. Count Neville recognized Ayame, calling him the Slaying Devil. He confirmed his own identity as Neville, recalling a time when Ayame had spoken of mages and swordsmen being equal. He questioned Ayame's sincerity, wondering if those words were merely a facade. Ayame, unwavering, declared that other people held no importance to him. Count Neville considered Ayame a perfect catalyst for his ascension. He looked forward to witnessing the new kind of magic that would be born from their confrontation, expressing his delight at the chance to fight Ayame to the death. With a chilling smile, he told Ayame to prepare himself. Ayame responded by drawing his blade, declaring his intent to cut down Count Neville's sins. Neville found himself in a tense confrontation with Ayame. Their battle had just begun, and Ayame was already struggling, his mana reserves dangerously low and his weakening spell easily countered. Despite Ayame's invisible attacks, Neville remained unwavering, declaring his intent to cut down Ayame's sins and expressing a desire to end the fight cleanly. Ayame, acknowledging Neville's formidable strength, found the task of defeating him without prolonged struggle increasingly difficult. The fight escalated quickly as Neville initiated long-range combat, unleashing his unique ability Devouring Sword, a technique capable of slicing through magic itself. Ayame, fascinated by Neville's unusual ability to seamlessly combine spells of multiple attributes, urged his opponent to reveal more of his power. The clash of their magical swords filled the air with crackling energy. Mid-fight, Neville paused, offering Ayame a chance to talk, confident that Ayame would understand his perspective. Ayame seemed taken aback, his surprise evident. Neville, a man of unmeasurable depths, made it clear that closing the distance between them would be a challenge, yet he found the entire encounter thrilling. He continued, articulating a chilling philosophy. He believed that differences between individuals were merely environmental factors. In a society where magic reigned supreme, everything was judged by magical prowess, inevitably leading to the conclusion that the lives of others were disposable. For him, this was a natural progression. Ayame, however, found this incomprehensible, warning that such a path would only lead humanity to perish. Neville remained unfazed, asserting that if destruction was the end of advancement, then so be it, viewing others as mere fuel for his magical pursuits. He was truly the Ripper, a man who despised everyone, not just swordsmen, trampling over others indiscriminately to further his own goals. With words failing to bridge their ideological chasm, Ayame declared that their battle would speak for them. Neville, dismissing Ayame's sentiments as nonsense, reignited their fierce exchange. The fight intensified, but Neville revealed his advantage, mystic eyes, that allowed him to foresee Ayame's movements. Ayame, undeterred, vowed to surpass this foresight, managing to land a significant blow that cut through Neville's substantial mana defense, much to Neville's surprise. Neville, having initially aimed to sever Ayame's arm, was impressed by Ayame's ability to block such an attack. He openly praised Ayame's magnificence, hailing him as a genius who surpassed even the legendary Sword Saint. Ayame then unleashed a new form of magic, initially appearing as ordinary water. Neville questioned if it was poison, but Ayame clarified its true nature, water-piercing line, his original magic. This seemingly innocuous water possessed extreme piercing power, explaining the unusually sharp wounds Neville had observed earlier. Neville, though unable to stomach Ayame's philosophy, admitted that Ayame's strength had piqued his interest. With a determined glint in his eyes, he prepared for a decisive strike, vowing to shatter Ayame's powerful spell.